Welcome! This video contains an introduction, an interview so you can gain deeper understanding of the subject from spirit level, and a group frequency calibration so you can start to clear the frequency distortion patterns around this topic. Enjoy! Hi everyone, my name is Karen Cheong and I'm here with my co-host Dennis Kelly. In our culture, and particularly our business culture, we're taught that goal setting is often the most effective or the sole means of getting what we want or where we want to be. And it can be effective depending on who you are. For some, however, not meeting our goals can cause a tremendous amount of frustration and shame. And for others, when they do achieve their goals, the sense of satisfaction or fulfillment is fleeting, and quickly an emptiness or a feeling of emptiness sets in. So while goal setting can be an effective method, from a higher perspective, it's really beginner level. Today, we're going to up-level to intermediate, and I'm going to share with you a method that will allow you to reach your goals more effectively and allow you to shift your perspective to a new paradigm that will allow you to move far beyond what the old paradigm of goal setting can give you. So let's jump right in. Dennis?
So Karen, when you talk about goals, my background is in the corporate world. And when I hear that word, it sends a little shiver down my back because, throughout the corporate world, that's what it's all about, monthly, quarterly, annual, whatever it might be. So I'm real curious what you've got up your sleeve today, because I'm sure that your mindset about goals is a lot different than the world that I grew up in. So what is a goal, or how do you set goals, or what is this all about for you?
So from my perspective, goal setting is, as I mentioned in the intro, beginner level. And the reason it's beginner level is because it utilizes the mind almost exclusively. So the mind can only take in so much information, right? We only have, there's millions of data points at any moment in time, and our minds can only take in a certain amount of information. Our minds are also very, very conditioned by our distortion patterns. So what we've heard from our parents, what we've learned through our culture, our education, our religion, all these different things are impacting what we think we think. Okay? So our goals, although we think that we're creating them in a vacuum from our minds based on this thing that we think we want, they're very limited because they're only based on our mental experience or what we have been exposed to in the world, and plus our distortions. If you go intermediate level, which is what I mentioned in the introduction, intermediate level to me is when you up level to beyond the mind. So now you're starting to leverage into the world of spirit. So if you use just your mind, you can only, like I said, move a certain amount, right? Because you're limited in information. Now, as you bump up into intermediate level, I'm going to call this dreaming. Okay, that's intermediate level. Dreaming starts to access the right side of the brain, which has to do with the creative, access to the divine, and that sort of thing. Most people, when they goal set, they only think linearly. I only want to get to here, or I want to get to here. I want to achieve this title, or this pay raise, or get this car, or this house, or whatever it is that it is that you want, yes? When we open to dreaming, then what happens is we start to expand and start to co-create with pure source, which is really important because now you start to expand the possibilities into which that are open to you. Because not only are you creating, right, you dreaming what is possible for you, you're starting to open now to something else, this other reciprocal partner who we're co-creating with all the time, whether or not we're aware of it. So that's really wonderful. And by the way, the method to do this is going to be in the GFC that follows this, okay? Because this is not something that you can do just mentally. It's not like I can instruct you, give you bullet points, a framework, and then you implement it. You actually have to go beyond your mental to access this, to have it be more effective from a higher vibrating perspective, to have it become more efficient in this world. So then the next level after that, because I know people are wanting to know what expert is. Expert is what I call creation manifestation. So that's when you go even higher in vibration level and start to create on spirit level and have that come into form. And that's what I would call black belt or a creation manifestation, and there's definitely a method in which you can do it, and you can do it consistently and get really great results. So, and there's a number of different ways you could do it, but some of them are less clear and less effective than others, but there's a way to do it really effectively. So anyway, those are the 3 tiers. Does that make sense in terms of the beginner, goal setting, intermediate, dreaming, expert, creation manifestation?
So do you mind if we just back up?
Please.
And let's go back to beginners.
Okay,
and
let's
because
do that.
I can tell that my whole lifetime was kind of at a beginner's.
Yeah.
With that limited data and my distortions and my life experiences and whatever that might be. So let me give you just a very simple example.
Sure.
and see if you can walk us through this.
Sure.
Is let's say that, okay, what I'd like to do is I'd like to lose 10 pounds in the next 60 days.
Okay.
So that's my goal. And that comes from where I'm at right now and my life experiences. So boom, I write it down, I've got it. I'm a beginner. So can you take me to the next level?
Sure.
From a dream perspective?
Sure. So what I'd say is the goal in it of itself is comes from your distortion patterns. So I'm not saying, right, in this example I know it's in a vacuum, but it's from your distortion patterns. So what we need to do to have it be effective in terms of dreaming is to start to clear the distortion patterns around the goal. Okay? So in dreaming, there's the dreaming aspect, and then there's the clearing of the, right, so there's 2 aspects. There's the dreaming aspect, which is the creation aspect, and then there's the clearing aspect. You actually need both in order to have it be effective. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Because it doesn't matter what you create. If you still have distortion patterns running, you're going to run into the distortion pattern again and again and again and again, right?
So I lost the 10 pounds, but now here a year later, the 10 pounds are back. So
Exactly.
what you're saying is I'm just cycling
Yes.
because I really didn't do anything as far as with the distortions.
That's right. That's right. So it doesn't matter what you're doing on a physical level, right? You might be eating great, you might be exercising, you might have been in coaching, you might, I don't know, whatever it is. But somehow, here comes the distortion patterns, and now yourself, whatever's happening in your world, the 10 pounds come back. So actually those 2 pieces are required together. Okay, so when I say dreaming, it means that it includes both clearing and the dreaming aspect. Okay, so to go to your example, so say that's your goal. What I would say is to get to intermediate level, you must first clear the distortion patterns. It's clear first. And as you're doing that, then create. Okay, so then the dream is the dreaming, and again, you'll have to feel this in the GFC. Okay, that process is the opening to the engaging the feeling sense of what it feels like to have that experience of being 10 pounds lighter. It also means that you must become neutral with regards to when it will come in for you. So the timing of your dictation of 60 days, it doesn't work like that on spirit level. There has to be a level of neutrality, a releasing of that. So that is part of the dreaming. Okay? And then creation manifestation, well, that's like a much longer class. That's like a 3 or 4 day master class that I'm going to be launching later. So there's more steps to it, and it requires a higher vibrational level in order to do it. So not everyone can do creation manifestation because they're not at the level where they can. They vibrationally are not at a level because they have too many distortion patterns around them. So they can't sustain the creation manifestation in the quantum field, which will then resonate down into the physical. They've got too much distortion around them to be able to do that effectively. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think, I see where you're coming from. Okay. So my old pattern was to basically, I've gotten a little heavy, I need to lose some weight. 10 pounds, let's see, how quickly can I do this? 2 months. And so without any thought about kind of all these patterns that are running inside of me, it might be eating disorders or, from my childhood or whatever that is. So you're saying, okay, you need to work on the distortions and clear that and then allow yourself the dream aspect of it.
Yes.
And the dream aspect of it might be even more profound or quite different than what I think it should be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And part of this shift into a new paradigm, right, is that because we're co-creating with Pure Source, there's a level of neutrality that is required in order for it to be effective. Meaning, so before with goal setting, here's the challenge with goal setting.
Yeah.
Okay, the inherent challenge with goal setting is that you put the goal outside yourself. It's over here somewhere. You're trying to achieve it, or for some people it's like way over there. It's like barely attainable. It's like not even quite in the same universe. It's over there somewhere, right? And you're striving towards the goal. There it is, over there. And you're striving, and it's like way outside of you. Inherently, that creates tension and dissonance between you and it.
Yeah.
Because it's outside of you and unattainable. Here you are, marching towards it.
Yeah.
The irony is that all of it already exists within you. I know that sounds like a Hallmark card, but it does. When you finally can accept or feel that thing existing within your own field, because it already does, that's when it comes in. But you have to get to that point. And it's not a mental muscle like, I will make it in my field. It's not about that. You have to clear the distortions, and then all of a sudden it'll be like, oh, well, there it is. It's always been there. That's so weird, you know? And then somehow the right trainer will come in, or the right exercise modality, or the right diet will come in, or your exercise buddy that you really needed to like get you along your path will have like moved to town. You're like, oh, I have an exercise buddy now all of a sudden. And now click, 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 it all starts to work, and then you're on your path. And somehow it's more fun than you thought it was going to be, right? Because you're not like, I must lose 10 pounds in 60 days. You know what I mean? It's like this. So it's a very different process, which is not necessarily linear.
Yeah.
And because, as I said, the challenge with the goal setting is because it's outside of you, it's difficult. If in the intermediate level, what happens is with the clearing and the co-creation, what happens is you start to dream within. Right? So you start to realize what you have within you. It's already there. So it's just about creating the resonance between you and it within you, so that exists within your field. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. You know, that's an altogether different.
Totally different paradigm.
Yeah, it is. It sounds a lot more fun and exciting.
It's way more fun.
And the other thing that you said that I caught was you said it's almost like I have to kind of put it out there, but not be attached to it.
Yes.
Because, you know, guess what? 10 pounds, every day I'm going to weigh myself. Failure, success, failure, success. And so what you're saying is with this process, it's altogether different.
Yeah.
It's allowing things to unfold.
Yes.
Allowing things to happen.
Yes, and it's funny because oftentimes we think that it's going to take us X amount of time. But it can happen pretty much almost instantly, or very, very quickly, let's just say. Especially if we've released the attachment. So, you know, a lot of people say, well, forget what you create. Part of the forgetting what you're trying to create is because then you've lost your attachment to it, your expectation about it. So it's very difficult. I remember someone telling me that once, and I was thinking, well, how do I forget what I wanted to create? Because I'm pretty fixated on it right now. But the thing is, it's not about forgetting what you create. It's becoming neutral to getting the outcome. Right? So what if it's 12 pounds instead of 10? What if it's in 5 days instead of 60? I mean, you know what I mean? Like we have all these ideas of what we want and when we want it and all this sort of stuff. But because we're so attached to them, then nothing else can happen. But if we become fluid around it, then actually more can come in. And ultimately, the really super black belt, okay, the super black belt, I don't know if you're ready for this. The super black belt is ultimately there are no goals because you're so unattached to what happens. Because everything is an opportunity to learn to experience something wonderful. And so you're co-creating for joy, for fun, because you can. And then that's ultimate freedom because you're not really bound to it from an ego standpoint of like, yes, I need to have this. You're just like, what's gonna happen? I don't know. And it's going to be if you can clear all of your distortions around this, yeah? So, or at least enough of them. And you've gotten to this point that you are in this place of neutrality, completeness, wholeness, and you really are in this state almost of wonder of like, okay, well, I don't know, can it get better than this? The answer is yeah, it can, but you're not attached to how it shows up. And that then, because at that point, the reason that works and the reason that's so black belt is because it requires complete surrender to pure source, which is extremely difficult for most of us who have egos and minds. Right? We like to be in control and get what we want when we want it. So to be able to be at that level of surrender requires a certain level of awakening or highly vibrating non-distortion for that to happen. So you can't be attached to be in that state. It's very, you can't be in that state and be attached. It's not possible. Yeah.
You know, what, you know, the thought I had as you went through that, and that, you know, releasing that attachment and allowing, and, you know, that connection with pure source. And what I was thinking about is maybe, you know, over a certain period of time, I actually gain 5 instead of losing 10, but I'm healthier, I'm stronger, I'm more vibrant, I'm, you know.
Yeah, it could be 5 pounds of muscle.
And so I thought that, you know, and so I can see when you just, when you clear the distortions and allow for the magic and the mystical part of all this, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I would say that the thing about it is you don't have to decide right now what level you want to go to. It really isn't relevant, right? I mean, whether you get to super black belt is really not relevant, okay? You don't have to get there. If you even just want to go up a level to intermediate, that's awesome, because your life already starts to shift. And you'll notice that the great thing about frequency work is as you approach this intermediate level and then expert and so on, your goals or what you think you want will shift because you don't have the same distortions. You really don't. So it's so funny, like what makes us want what we think we want? You know, we think it's, I don't know what we think it is. It's like this internal driver that's free of any other input, but that's not true. So it's really cool to experience, no matter where you go, as you move up in vibrational level towards intermediate or expert or black belt, it's you are freeing yourself from the things that are binding what you think you want. That's the ultimate liberation, actually.
So truly what you're doing with your process is you're allowing people to step into a whole new world.
Yeah. It's a new consciousness that's coming.
Yeah, instead of these, you know, very defined, you know, goals and very restrictive and surrounded by fear and anxiety and, you know.
And oftentimes shame if you don't reach them.
Yeah, I didn't make it. Oh God.
Yeah.
You know, now what?
Yeah.
You know, so you're just allowing all that to be released.
Yeah. And the really cool thing is it often exceeds, because I know for a lot of people they go into fear, like I'm not even going to make, if I don't have any goals, oh my God, then I'm not going to get, nothing's going to happen. And I'm not, okay, so the other thing I want to state is I'm not suggesting that you don't have focus, direction, commitment, that type of thing. Because in the intermediate level of dreaming, I'm going to give a little bit of information just to help people. So in the intermediate level where you've now cleared and you are creating, the third piece is now you're in the world, right? So now you're clearing, creating. So you're creating let's use your example. I want to lose 10 pounds in 60 days, yes? So let's just say that that's what you're creating, like in your dream world. I would like to be 10 pounds lighter because I would like to feel healthier. I would like to feel cleaner. I would like to eat cleaner. I would like to feel more energetic. I would like to have more energy with my grandchildren, whatever it is. I want to run a triathlon, whatever, okay? So that's your dreaming. As you move towards that goal, it's really important in this intermediate level, in this non-attachment that I talked about, to commit to that goal and then be fluid enough to, if something else appears, to move towards that. So in your process of reaching the goal of losing 10 pounds, you happen to meet somebody who tells you about this new weight strengthening thing and this new diet, because you're committed, right? You're moving toward this, you're going to the gym, and then one day you meet this person and you're like, wow, that sounds really fascinating to me. Okay, I'm gonna come over here and learn about the thingy, the diet thingy, or the weight strengthening, whatever. So as you say, you put on 5 pounds, but instead you've put on 5 pounds of muscle and you've dropped 15 pounds of fat, or whatever it is. I don't really know the ratios or whatever. But do you see what I'm saying? You've kind of like gone like this, so you're no longer, like you're still committed to it, but you kind of took a side detour that presented itself in your path towards the 10 pounds. But because you were fluid enough to follow that, somehow you ended up with a much better result than if you hadn't been committed to the first goal in the first place. Does that make sense? So you need 3 pieces in the intermediate level: clear, create, and then fluidity, right? In the real world. But the fluidity is based on a commitment to that goal, like to moving towards that thing. Yes? But then being open enough to sidestep if the energy presents itself, right? So staying open. So those are the 3 steps to the intermediate in the creation manifestation. It builds on that, but that's really what you need. So
right behind that, that word commitment is flexibility.
Yeah, they're in
I
tandem
have
with
to
each other.
allow for it to unfold however it may unfold.
Mm-hmm.
I may not at this point have the knowingness, and something else is going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to be flexible enough to allow for that.
Yeah, it's sort of like the commitment is sort of like the masculine,
Yeah.
and the fluidity and the adaptability is the feminine. And this is now in union. They're moving together in union, right? So this is, and I'm not talking about our gender. I'm talking about the energetic. Yeah. So so if you can use both in unity in this really beautiful way, that allows you to experience more, but to still continue to ascend much more quickly than if you're doing one or the other without the two of them combined. Does that make sense?
I'll bet it's extremely exciting to work with people as they go through this whole paradigm shift and move into this different process that allows for this transformation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Because what comes in and what they can create is so much greater than what they can initially dream, initially think of.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's really cool.
Well, thank you very much, Karen.
Thank you, Dennis.
Karen, could you help me? I hear so often when I look at your video or your website, GFC. Exactly what is that?
A GFC is a group frequency calibration, which looks a lot like a guided meditation on a particular topic. And what I'm doing is I'm helping you to remove the distortion patterns of that particular topic. And because you're coming together as a mastermind in a group to connect to pure source even more and to clear the distortion patterns of this particular topic, what happens is a tremendous amount of momentum starts to happen because of the energetic of the entire group, and each individual is able to move faster and ascend higher than they could have on their own. Welcome everyone to the group frequency calibration on goals, what to do about them, and more specifically on the intermediate level called dreaming that I refer to in the episode. So first, becoming very aware of your body and its weight, like its relative heaviness, the density of your flesh. And then its relative position in the room that you're in, vis-a-vis the inanimate objects. So just notice where you are. And pick at least 3 inanimate objects to notice. At least 3. Good. So now bringing your attention, awareness, focus to the points between your belly button and your heart space. And you're going to imagine as if there were a center line drawn between these 2 points. So please become aware of that center line. And as you do this, we're going to take a single breath together. So focusing on that center line, you're going to inhale as slowly as you can, and then hold your breath at the top of your breath for as long as you think you can, and really seeing if you can take yourself to that edge of discomfort, and then releasing all the air out of your lungs whenever you're ready, not on my time, on yours, and then holding out the exhaled or voided breath for as long as you think you can. Again, stretching to that point of discomfort. This breath is important because it helps to physically mirror pushing outside of what we feel is comfortable. So don't cheat yourself of this one breath. And for those of you with very long breaths, you may want to pause this recording until you're complete and then restart. For the rest of us, bringing your attention between your pubic bone and the base of your sternum. Breathing normally here. And as I wait for the mastermind to gel, for those of you who are new, please note that I'm working on you at the group and the subgroup level, and that I'll be making sounds on my end. So you'll likely hear me yawn, or exhale sharply, or hum, and that's just how I remove the distortion patterns at this time. And I'm working more and more in silence as I access higher and higher level frequencies, which is beneficial to you because I can move you further and faster with less detox for you. It just requires more focus on my part. So just know that if you don't hear anything, I'm still working on you. Yeah, there we go. So the mastermind has just gelled, so let's go ahead and ask ourselves the following question to ourselves. And that question is, how can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source? And that question again is, how can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source? And as you ask yourself that question, please imagine, sense, feel, or become aware of a brilliance deep, deep at the very core of your body. Now you have two options, and you're going to just feel which one is easiest for you. You're going to imagine either the brilliance becoming more shimmery and expanding outwards through all of your cells and eventually radiating out through the pores of your skin. Or, if you prefer, diving further into that brilliance, going deeper, and as you go deeper and deeper, noting the infiniteness of this brilliance as you go deeper within. Whichever is easiest for you, they are equally effective and subjective to the person who you are. And as you're doing this, I'm working with you on the source level to increase your capacity to take in higher levels of pure source frequency. So increasing your bandwidth. Yep. Good. Bringing your attention now between your pubic bone and the base of your sternum. Your sternum is that big, thick bone in the center of your chest, where your ribs meet in front of your body. All right. So the first distortion pattern is, depending on the subgroup you're in, fear, doubt, worry, or anxiety, or resistance to the possibility that you can create, that you actually can manifest things. So let's just remove this, because with this running, it's very difficult to even do dreaming or have dreaming. So this is a lineage pattern, a religious pattern, and a cultural pattern. It is specifically there as it originated as an external thought form that is a control form, all right? Because if you don't believe you can, then you won't even try. And then what you dream is always the same, okay? Or what you create, rather, is always the same. And it's often dictated by something external. Right? It makes us much easier to control. So, removing this first distortion pattern. All you have to do is keep your focus on that area between your pubic bone and the base of your sternum. Mm-hmm. Good. And now in that same area of your body. Okay. So interestingly, this is the fear of or worry about actually being able to create. Okay, that you actually can do this, which you can, because you're creating reality right now. But if you, what happens if you actually can create whatever you want? So for some of you, actually, a very large portion of you, the biggest subgroup is afraid of this. There's a smaller subgroup that's just psyched about it. So you can have both, right? You can be both excited about it and want to have it, and also be scared of it at the same time, or a little bit apprehensive of it. So depending what subgroup you're in, it varies from fear to apprehension to discomfort with, to resistance to. And the resistance to group, it's more like, well, I don't know that I want to be able to do that. Because, again, there's a whole bunch of lineage patterns about low self-worth and non-deserving. And who are you to think you can create? And for some of you, it's religious patterning, like this is the realm of God, for example, or pure source. Well, this is in co-creation with pure source, and you are a fragment of pure source. So it is God creating itself. In any case, what's important is the distortion pattern removal. So removing this from all the various subgroups, and these are just the ones that came up as the biggest groups. So just keeping your attention on that lower belly into the solar plexus, breathing normally here. Mm-hmm. Now bringing your attention, please, to your xiphoid process, which is right at the base of your sternum. So as you go from that bony part of your sternum and go to that fleshy point right underneath it, that's a little bit sore, and you press it, that is your xiphoid process. So keeping your attention here. This distortion pattern has to do with low self-worth or non-deserving of your ability to create. So let's remove this, or that you can get what you would like, or get what you intend or desire, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so let's remove this here. Tied into this is the distortion patterns of shame, like what will other people think of me, not wanting to be judged for being better than someone else. That's what I mean by the shame. Like you have to hide your success somehow so other people don't feel bad. For some of you, this is a religious patterning because it's not appropriate for you to have what you want. You're supposed to be like a humble or meek. Yeah. So let's remove all this stuff. Yeah. Now, the reason we're doing all this clearing, just as a reminder, is that if you have all these distortion patterns running, it doesn't matter what you create, it's going to succumb to these distortions because the frequency creates form. So you initially may be able to create it, but then it's going to distort because of these patterns. So by removing these patterns, when you create, it will be more clear and more intact and more in alignment with what you originally intended. So this is why the clearing is happening. Bring your attention now between, if you imagine a midpoint between your belly button and the base of your sternum, so right in the center of your solar plexus. So in the midpoint of your solar plexus, all the way up to the xiphoid process, so what I would call your upper solar plexus, bring your attention here. Okay, so there is inherently power in creating. And this next distortion pattern has to do with the fear of that power, the discomfort with that power, or resistance to it, depending on what subgroup you're in. Because power is often viewed as oppressive, because in this current or the old paradigm, it is often abused. Abusive is what I meant. Or it is abused, meaning others are abused by it. So this is, the creation process is, if used properly, is from a higher order, right? This power, just in terms of your ability to create, the whether you use it for things that aren't great or things that are more beneficial is up to you. But if it's from a higher order, which usually it is, in order for it to be most effective, then it's usually helping the greater good. So I wouldn't worry about it unless you specifically are trying to call in something dark. So in any case, removing these distortion patterns. Mm-hmm. And in the same space, the next distortion pattern is the resistance to going into inspired action once you dream. Because it does require effort on our part to go into action, some form of action, in the physical plane. Often, for this group it is. If you are of a much higher order, this is less required, but you still need to go into some kind of action on the physical plane. It's just to a much lesser degree. Okay? But for those of you on the call, you will need to go into physical action more. So, helping you with this, so that you have the internal strength to go into more focused and inspired action. On what it is that you're dreaming. So now for the dreaming. Now, it's very likely that most of you will be able to dream more effectively now. Okay, even if it's just a little bit more. For some of you, it will be a lot more. So this requires more than just this GFC here. This is like a multiple hour class, right? To clear enough, and then to get you into deeper state of dreaming, and then moving you into creation manifestation. For now, we're going to amplify dreaming, which includes removing this distortion pattern that this is not allowed. Okay, that it's not permissible or allowable or appropriate for you to be dreaming, and that there should be caps on what you dream. Right? So, and for some of you, your dreaming is very narrow. Like you always dream about this, you would dream about the same things, like you want a better relationship, you want a better car, so, or you want more money or something. But let's expand that, right? So what we're going to do right now is removing these distortion patterns that I just spoke of. So give me just a few seconds to do that. Yeah. And now, amplifying the frequency of dreaming. So as I'm doing this, imagine something that you would like to create in the world, or to have become manifest in the world. Okay? So it could be that you want a greater community of people of a higher resonance to be with. It could be an intimate partner. It could be, I don't know, a new bicycle. It could be a new pair of sneakers. It could be anything, whatever it is that you think you want. Yeah. And as you start to imagine what it is you want, imagine how you'll feel when you get to experience it. So if it's a new car, you get to feel the interior and what the light looks like as it comes in through the window, the new car smell, the whatever it is, the way your body fits into the car, how it sounds, whatever it is. Okay. Yeah. And then you're going to feel or imagine becoming detached from that thing. So it's almost like it'll start to move away from you. And it's fun to create this, but if you don't get it, it's okay. So helping you with neutrality, because most of you are very attached to what it is you want to create, which is hampering the creation. The detachment is really key. Yeah. Good. And amplifying play as you dream. It's fun, you're playing. Good. And now you're going to imagine releasing what it is that you want entirely away from you. So it's going to drop away from you. Okay, you're going to let it go. It's going to move away from you, likely drop away from you. Just imagine that thing and have it move away from you in space until it disappears. And really let it go. Some of you will feel almost like a release in your body from letting it go. Like, oh, it's gone. Or an emotional or energetic release from letting it go. Excellent. Good. Working on your pain body. And as I do this, taking an inhale, holding your breath for 1 to 2 seconds, and then releasing with some sound, like, Good. So I'm going to leave you in this space for as long as you like. I look forward to working with you on the next GFC, and the masterclass on creation manifestation will be announced likely at the end of 2019.